Hello again to my fellow IT professionals across the University of California system right here in the Golden State. My name is Miguel Rodriguez, and I am the committee chair for the 2022 UC Tech Conference happening on UC San Diego campus, August 15th through 17th. And this is the second of my video series, just letting you get to know me and our thought processes as we go and give a face to the event. So today's video is going to focus on the word hybrid, what exactly our definition of the word hybrid is when referencing this particular event, and how we intend to do our best to make virtual participants feel like they are part of the same event as anyone who is walking around on the grounds in San Diego come August. And so I know that's a quixotic goal, but it is indeed the goal and the vision. I'm not going to beat around the bush here. I do believe that there is definitely a disconnect for people experiencing virtual event. The theme of our event, as covered in the first video, is connection. So in a very real way, a virtual or remote, even that word remote, event has a kind of disconnecting feeling about it, and it's hard to overcome that. In the last 2 years, with the various events that we have experienced virtually, especially in the age of COVID, essentially we've had Zoom webinar or something like it, where it's a very passive experience for those of you at home. You can watch, kind of listen to it in the background. I know many people who had the presentation going as they did other work. And then, of course, there's a Q&A button. And while a lot of us were able to make that work for several events, there is, in my view, a disconnect between the presenter and the audience that's just unavoidable. So how can we make those of you at home feel like you're at least approaching an experience that the people in that room are? We talk a lot about what the in-person experience offers that we lose from virtual experiences. That's easy. What I don't hear discussed very much is what does the virtual experience offer that we cannot have in person? So the one that is pretty easy that people do talk about is accessibility, right? So we are still in the age of COVID. We did have to limit the people coming. So there is a very real accessibility issue there, just in terms of how many people could show up. But of course, there is also accessibility for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, for people who experience visual impairments, for people who experience mobility challenges. These are types of things that virtual offers a supplement to an in-person that actually is potentially more inclusive, as long as we keep that in mind. But there's something else, I think, that gets overlooked, and that is engagement. And that's kind of ironic, because in a lot of these webinars I have seen, the engagement from the virtual audience is not always there. And I think that is because engagement has to be really intentionally built into the presentation. So here's what I mean by that. If we are in a classroom watching a presenter and we're occupying that space together, it is rude if I nudge the person next to me or kind of shout to a person across the room, hey, did you get that? Do you remember when we talked about in our meeting last week? It doesn't really work in the in-person setting, but it works great in the virtual setting. And one thing I have noticed is we have not yet fully adapted as participants to what virtual can offer. I think there is still a need or an almost internal desire to stay silent and be respectful while the presentation's going on. I don't think that really works in the virtual setting. And one of the ways that I want to hopefully change that dynamic is having people from our team in those virtual spaces with you, being part of the conversation. So not just a chat moderator, or not just someone who's going to track your Q&A, but someone who will be able to have a relevant conversation with you and maybe start ice breaking it so the chat can happen a little more fluidly. And on top of that, I want this person to be able to bring your face and voice inside that classroom if you wish it. In any case, sessions will be recorded. So if you do miss any session, or if a session you're attending happens to butt up against another one you might have wanted to hear, then you will have the opportunity to go back and view these. It won't be live, but it'll still be good. And that's something that I am very proud of, is we'll have stuff, we'll have content for posterity. And that will leave me on my final thought that hybrid or virtual events, this new world, can offer us that the in-person world maybe didn't do so well. And that is the ability to reconnect on specific topics that happened during the conference, see who out there applied this skill and was successful at it. And maybe we could have a virtual session where we get together and share that information and revisit the stuff that we had. And it's not just a shot in the dark or flash in the pan type event, but it's something that we can build upon and compound and learn from each other. And that's something that personally I would like to see happen. Very excited about. And that will conclude my video on what our hybrid moonshot ideas are. I'm open to suggestions, emails, thoughts about how we can potentially supplement some of the things I've talked about. Plans are very much underway, but who knows? Maybe there's just an idea that's too brilliant not to try. So until next time, I will see you all later.